Welcome back to the deep dive. We are jumping right into a huge stack of sources today.
A big one.
Yeah, all focused squarely on the, let's say, shifting landscape of American politics. You've sent us a lot, election data, policy deadlocks, and some really jaw-dropping stuff on how power is being used.
And our mission, as always, is pretty simple. We want to slice through all that noise and just pull out the knowledge nuggets you need to really get what's moving the political needle right now.
We're looking for the patterns, those aha moments.
Exactly. And why some things work and others just spectacularly fail.
Okay, so let's start right off with special elections. For analysts, these little contests are, they're like crucial bellwethers. They filter out the noise of a presidential race. And we have to talk about the TN-07 result, Tennessee's 7th district. So Republican Mark Van Epps won, getting 54% to Democrat Afton Ben's 45%.
Right. And on the face of it, a 9-point Republican win in what we know is an R+10 district.
Yep.
That seems totally fine.
Seems consistent, yeah.
Republicans held the seat. End of story. Right. But, and here's the key context to need, when you look at the 2024 presidential margin, Donald Trump won this exact same district by a staggering 22 points.
Okay, wait. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
So he wins by 22, but the special election Republican only wins by 9. That gap is enormous. It suggests something.
Yeah.
Something fundamental has shifted.
It absolutely has.
Yeah.
Our analysis confirms a 13-point swing toward the Democrat in that election.
13 points.
Compared to the top of the ticket last year. And this isn't, a one-off. It's not an anomaly. This is consistent with what we've seen across the 4 previous 2025 special elections.
So everywhere.
Districts are swinging, a dozen points or more toward the Democrats compared to 2024. That trend of Democrats outperforming the top of the ticket is persistent. It's powerful right now.
Okay, so the data confirms this massive widespread swing away from the last Republican presidential performance, but this was still the Democrats' worst improvement of the 5 specials. The swing wasn't enough to actually flip the seat. So what went wrong for them in TN-07 if the big trend was on their side?
And this is where we get the vital lesson. Candidate fit still matters so much. The national winds can be blowing your way, but Afton Ben was a self-proclaimed radical activist.
In Middle Tennessee.
And Republicans hammered her on it relentlessly. And then, to top it all off, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez shows up to campaign for her.
I mean, that feels like a strategic gift to the opposition in an R+10 district.
It absolutely was. You can see it in the results. AOC is a tremendous asset in, say, a dense, progressive urban district.
Sure.
But in a rural R+10 district, that national progressive branding, it probably helped the Republican consolidate votes from skeptical moderates.
So the lesson is match the electorate.
The biggest lesson from all this is simple. Candidates who are a good match for their specific electorate win. Period. The national trend is just one factor.
That sets us up perfectly for our first section, moving from these congressional races to the microcosm of local politics.
Yeah, the message is even louder there.
It's like match your electorate or lose, because the party label means a whole lot less when you're just picking a mayor.
We saw that so clearly in the Georgia mayoral runoffs. In Roswell, a moderate suburb, the Democrat Mary Robbins show, she successfully ousted the incumbent.
A sign of suburban fatigue.
Right. But then you look right next door in Sandy Springs, Georgia's 7th largest city. It's 54% white, 18% black. The incumbent Republican, Rusty Paul, he won a 4th term, 69-31.
Not even close.
No. The local dynamics, desire for stability, the demographics, it all supported the established moderate Republican.
And even where the candidates had the same party, it was all about local stuff. Look at South Fulton, a 90% black city near Atlanta. 2 black Democrats were competing. Carmelita Gums beat the incumbent mayor on things like trash pickup and zoning.
Right. Municipal churn, not some grand ideological war.
Exactly.
But the truly fascinating local outcome for me was the Atlanta City Council runoffs. Here you had moderate Democrats backed heavily by the mayor, Andre Dickens.
Running against progressives endorsed by the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America.
Exactly.
And this was supposed to be the big test of the Mamdani effect, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Just to refresh, Zohran Mamdani's primary win in New York was seen as this, proof of concept that progressives could successfully take on moderate Democrats on a local level.
Precisely. The hope or the fear, depending on your view, was that this signaled a coming wave of DSA power in cities all over the country.
And what did we learn from Atlanta?
We learned that the appeal is currently pretty limited and highly localized. Both of the moderates, Thomas Worthy and Wayne Martin, they won decisively.
What were the margin?
Around 59 to 42 and 58 to 42. So not even close. The DSA brand that activist approach, it just failed to translate into general election success there.
Which suggests their path to power is still pretty geographically constrained.
Very much so.
And then we have this beautiful, almost perfect morality play in Jersey City.
Oh, you couldn't write a clearer contrast.
The mayoral runoff between former Governor Jim McGreevey, who resigned in a sex scandal years ago,
Right.
and Councilman James Solomon, a clean, young progressive.
Solomon's 41, ran on integrity. McGreevey is 68, and he was absolutely defeated. A 2-to-1 margin.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's a generational thing there, sure, but the core takeaway is just, it's kind of reassuring. Clean, young progressives can still beat, moderate old sleazeballs trying to get back in the game after resigning in disgrace.
It is good to know that America is not totally broken.
A brief moment of optimism, yes.
Okay, let's pivot hard now from local integrity to national messaging, because we're seeing a massive quantifiable shift in the political dictionary. Last year, the word was inflation.
Inflation, inflation, inflation.
Now it's all affordability.
It's everywhere. And the data we have on congressional emails is astounding. It shows exactly when the political class got the memo.
When was it?
As soon as Zohran Mamdani won that NYC primary, a signal of economic populism, the word affordability just spiked. 7-fold.
7 times.
Among Democratic congressional emails, they got the memo instantly. They understood that talking about the effect of high prices, not the abstract concept, was more potent.
I'm curious about the method there. Are these official legislative communications, or are they?
It's primarily campaign communications, fundraising emails. The language designed to directly connect with and motivate an average voter. That's why the shift is so telling.
And the Republicans?
They were still trending down on the topic until the general election season really started, and then they hit the panic button. A sudden, massive spike.
So they got the memo late and are playing catch-up.
They are. But the challenge for the GOP is internal. Their president has publicly called the entire focus on affordability a con job.
Which creates a real communications dilemma.
A huge one. If they talk about it, they risk angering their party's leader. If they don't, voters only hear the Democratic solutions, which, they sound pretty concrete.
And those solutions really do reveal the policy divide. For Democrats, it's low-hanging fruit. Blame high prices on Trump's tariffs and promise to repeal them. Or push for a higher minimum wage.
Simple, easy to understand. Republicans have to get more creative, and their solutions are riskier. One idea is to support lowering interest rates, right, to ease lending costs.
But the counter to that is easy.
So easy. Democrats can just warn that lowering rates will unleash the dreaded inflation demon all over again. The messaging war here it's very high stakes.
Speaking of high stakes, let's talk about the healthcare paradox. This is a situation where Democrats might actually win politically by failing to pass a policy that would help millions of people.
Yeah, this revolves around extending the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, healthcare subsidies. These are the tax credits that help people afford plans on the marketplace.
And they were enhanced during the pandemic.
Substantially, but those enhancements are temporary.
Yeah.
And if Congress fails to reach a deal and the deadline is coming up fast, the subsidies just lapse.
And that means
Premiums spike overnight. For about 20 million Americans.
It's a consumer disaster. So why is Congress having such a hard time acting on this?
Well, there's a big split in the Senate GOP. You've got the hardliners who've always hated the ACA and see killing the subsidies as a good thing.
First step.
A first step.
Yeah.
And they're battling vulnerable swing state senators who know exactly what will happen if millions of their constituents lose coverage right before an election.
And then there's the new barrier, which is purely ideological, the abortion rider.
Correct. Some Republicans are demanding language that bans the use of these federal subsidies for any insurance plan that covers abortions.
And Democrats will never accept that.
Never. It's a fundamental change to health care access.
So here's the paradox that feels almost too cynical to be true. The sources suggest that if this deal fails, it could actually be a win for Democrats in the midterms.
Politically, yes.
How do they balance that? The potential political gain with the moral responsibility to those 20 million people?
The sources are saying that politically, Democrats know if the deal collapses. Republicans who control Congress and the White House will get the lion's share of the blame. It's a perfect attack line for the midterms.
Republican inaction, Republican cruelty.
Exactly. The consensus is that while Democrats obviously care about their constituents' health, The political reality is that the blame game favors them if the clock runs out.
So what's the most likely endgame?
The historical trick. A short-term extension. Kick the can down the road for a few months, get past the next election.
That dynamic is deeply frustrating. Let's shift gears completely and talk about power itself, specifically executive power that lacks a constitutional check. We're talking about the presidential pardon.
The pardon power is truly unique in our system. Most powers have a counterbalance, right? Congress passes a bill, the president can veto it, president nominates judges, Senate confirms.
But not the pardon.
The pardon is only accepted in cases of impeachment. The founders intended it as a check of mercy, a way to fix things when justice went wrong.
But based on recent examples, it seems to have morphed into something else entirely. A tool to enforce loyalty.
It's become a loyalty tool, yes.
Yeah.
The list of recent high-profile pardons is like a veritable assembly line. It sends a clear message to anyone aligned with the administration.
Like who?
We've seen a pardon for the former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted on a 45-year drug conspiracy sentence, a case the U.S. prosecuted vigorously.
And then there are the symbolic pardons, the ones meant to protect political allies.
Exactly. Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows, both pardoned before indictment for their roles in the 2020 election efforts. That sends a stark message.
That if you help commit a crime for the president, you're protected.
The protection's there, even if a federal pardon doesn't stop state-level trials. And the system benefits the connected. George Santos, he was sprung from a 7-year sentence for fraud after just 3 months.
It also seems to explicitly reward financial support.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Paul Walczak, a former nursing home executive. He got his pardon for tax crimes less than a month after his mother attended a $1 million-a-person fundraiser.
Wow.
Or Changpeng Zhao, the crypto billionaire who pleaded guilty to money laundering. He was pardoned because of the deep ties between his crypto empire and the administration's own crypto interests. It just shows the raw, unchecked nature of this power.
And that misuse of public trust extends beyond pardons. According to a stunning ProPublica report, it goes to the misuse of public resources, subsidizing billionaire ranchers.
Yeah, this is a policy that was originally meant to help small, struggling ranchers use federal land in the West.
But in practice?
In practice, the sources show people like Stan Krog, who's worth $20 billion, has massive public land access. Ranchers pay about 15% of private grazing fees for this access. Plus, they get cheap insurance and other benefits.
The disparity is staggering. Rupert Murdoch paid $200 million for his Beaverhead Ranch. He pays the government only about $25,000 a year to graze his cattle on 340,000 acres of public land.
Which is 95% below the market rate for similar private land.
It's not just a free lunch, though. It has real environmental consequences.
It does. Because the fees are so low, there's no incentive to limit herd sizes. So you get too many cattle on the land. That leads to erosion, environmental degradation, the same problem that contributed to the Dust Bowl in the 30s.
And what's so revealing is the ideology behind it. There's a quote from Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who sees public land as the balance sheet of America that is really restricting itself by not being fully exploited.
That framework suggests exploitation is a virtue, not a problem. It sets the stage for future policies that will prioritize commercial extraction over conservation, all driven by this belief that the land is underperforming if it's not generating cash for the wealthiest users.
Okay, we've covered national messaging and unchecked executive power. Let's finish on political manipulation and these state-level chess matches, starting with Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis' eagerness to redraw the congressional map. Again.
DeSantis is actively waiting for a signal from the Supreme Court. There's a major case that questions whether the Voting Rights Act itself is an unconstitutional racial gerrymander.
And if the court gives him the green light,
the legislature will be called back in January, and the new map they draw is expected to carve up Democratic strongholds and deliver 3 to 5 new Republican seats.
And they do this primarily by divvying up districts with large black populations, right? Like Representative Maxwell Frost's D+13 Orlando district.
Precisely. You essentially eliminate a voice for partisan gain. But while this procedural rigging is a huge issue for democracy, the sources note the cynical reality.
Which is?
Voters care about the price of eggs and electricity, not gerrymandering. So unless gas prices are spiking when this map is unveiled, it might not even register as a big campaign issue in 2026.
The next example of this kind of pressure is even more shocking. The SNAP blackmail threat.
This involves the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, threatening to withhold SNAP benefits food assistance from 21 blue states California, Minnesota, New York.
And
They're refusing to share the names and immigration status of recipients.
does she even have the legal authority to unilaterally cut off those funds?
No, absolutely not. Nothing in the statute gives her that power. This is a favorite technique of the administration: political blackmail. Threatening legally entitled funds to force compliance with something that isn't even legal.
And the whole premise is weak anyway.
Very weak. The USDA's own data shows only 0.2% retailer fraud. So the scale of the problem she's claiming to solve it doesn't seem to justify denying food to millions.
Finally, let's touch on the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. Former Alton Governor Mandela Barnes just got in.
Right. Governor Tony Evers isn't seeking a third term, so it's a feeding frenzy in that crucial swing state. Barnes is black, he's progressive. That excites the base, gives him a national fundraising network.
But the challenge is that he lost his 2022 Senate race to Ron Johnson.
And he was one of the few Democrats to fail in that cycle.
That previous loss must cast a long shadow on his electability.
It does. And the skepticism is so strong that the black-owned newspaper, the Milwaukee Courier, ran an editorial titled, "We Can't Afford to Lose in 2026, and we can't risk another Mandela Barnes loss."
Wow.
It really highlights the central dilemma for Democrats in these swing states. Do you pick the candidate who excites the base, or the one who has a better shot statewide?
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've hit 4 major themes: the persistent Democratic outperformance in special elections, the rapid shift in language to affordability, the huge policy cliff on ACA subsidies, and the alarming use of unchecked executive power.
All these threads, they really speak to this underlying tension in how America is governed right now. And to leave you with one final provocative thought, it ties directly back to our discussion on tariffs and executive power.
Okay.
The core legal challenge to the president's trade power relies on something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA.
The IEPA. That's the statute meant to let the president regulate commerce during a real emergency, like a war.
Exactly. And companies are preparing to sue for refunds if the Supreme Court rules the president had no authority to levy the tariffs they've already paid,
Yeah.
arguing that the act was misused.
So, if the government is forced to repay potentially billions in collected tariffs, and we might not get a ruling until mid-2026, what does that do?
It raises this existential question of how that decision would destabilize the executive branch's perception of its own economic power.
It could be a massive check on presidential authority.
A monumental constitutional check, one that would impact every future administration's ability to wage economic policy. It's a huge showdown flying under the radar, and you should definitely track it closely.
Fantastic analysis. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope you feel thoroughly informed.
We'll see you next time.